The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Well, the numbers are not sexy, but the Philadelphia Eagles were able to defeat the Dallas Cowboys tonight 24-20.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
24-20, another classic, toxic, stressful Philadelphia Eagles Week 1 win. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni in that Eagles era, they are now 5-0 to start off the season since 2021, and it feels like this game was a microcosm of all those games. It wasn't easy. It came down to the final drive, but the Eagles were able to be clutch, show their champions, show their battle-tested, overcome a lot of adversity, and get a W. Again, 24-20, the final score. The numbers are not sexy for the Eagles offense. They certainly were not great for the Eagles defense, which allowed 7 straight possessions to begin the game with scoring from the Dallas Cowboys, whether they were the first 2 touchdowns of the game or field goals as well. The defense was taking on some water on that boat because Jalen Carter, before the game even starts, spits on Dak Prescott. By the way, Dak spit first, though. We found that out in the second half, so I'm less mad at Jalen. But then we had a lightning delay as well. Ben Van Sumeren tore, I think his ACL, was carted off the field the first play of the game. Just a toxic up-and-down roller coaster of a matchup. But in all that chaos that was this win, there was the cool, calm demeanor of the franchise quarterback, Jalen Hurts, that said, I've got this. This game was a perfect representation of what makes Jalen Hurts elite. Is he elite in the same way as Patrick Mahomes? Actually, kind of. Maybe Mahomes is the wrong example. Is he the same kind of elite player that Josh Allen is, or Lamar Jackson, or Joe Burrow? Is he the same style of player as a Matt Stafford, or a Jaden Daniels, or some of these other elite quarterbacks in football? No. But just because you're a different kind of player doesn't mean you're elite. Jalen Hurts, or doesn't mean you're not elite. Jalen Hurts is elite in a different way. And today showed his elite traits. His mobility and his clutch gene, his ability to never get rattled, no matter the situation, is what makes him a great, now Super Bowl champion quarterback. I mean, for this team, again, to lose their most impactful player on defense before there is one snap, Jalen Carter tossed from this football game before they even played. For that to happen, the Dallas Cowboys march right down the field, score a touchdown. You might have lost one of your starting offensive players for the season, although it's a fullback. Like, that's a crazy thing to happen on the first kickoff of the 2025 season. And then Jalen Hurts marches right down the field and scores a rushing touchdown. And then the next drive, the Dallas Cowboys score again. What does Jalen Hurts do? No problem. You want me to get into a shootout with Dak Prescott if that's what it's going to take to win this football game? I've got this. And not only did he score 2 rushing touchdowns and was elevating this football team. Everybody says Jalen Hurts can't elevate this team, elevate this offense. He elevated the offense, he carried the defense, and he did it without the passing game really having success. And I don't think that was his fault. Like, yeah, you look at the numbers today, and it wasn't sexy from a statistical standpoint. 19 of 23, 152 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 62 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. But I don't think the numbers not being up there were because of Jalen Hurts. I think A.J. Brown only got 1 target, and it was in the fourth quarter, had a reception on the final drive. Was he injured? It felt like Kevin Patullo was calling a very conservative play-calling game because Devontae Smith really wasn't involved either. They had that 1 vertical shot to Jahan Dotson, which was caught for over 50 yards. So I don't really think it was on Jalen Hurts. I thought he looked dialed in from the start, was making all the right decisions, was accurate, started the game, I think 7 of 7, 8 of 8, had those 2 rushing touchdowns, and nobody was open. Like, when you look at those plays that he extended, yeah, the protection was great, but he couldn't find anybody, and Jalen had to improv. He had to make plays outside of structure with his legs. On those 2 rushing touchdowns, on that 1 scoring drive, he had 5 scramble runs for 43. Those 2 drives. 5 scramble carries in those first 2 scoring drives for 43 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, which was tied for a career high. So not only was this not by design, It was not by choice, really. Like, Jalen had to do this. He doesn't always like to run at that kind of volume, especially early on in the season, early on in games, but he had to do that. And that's why it bothers me so much when people cherry pick Jalen Hurts' passing stats to say that he's not an elite football player, to compare it with some of these other guys like a Dak Prescott, who had a great performance today that has these gaudy passing numbers. That doesn't tell the whole story of Jalen Hurts. It doesn't show you why he's a special football player. It's why, some of my non-Eagles fans friends will roll their eyes at when Eagles fans use total yardage to justify Jalen Hurts in a debate against another star quarterback. But production is production. Jalen Hurts carrying you is carrying you, whether it's through running the football or through the air. Nobody knocks Josh Allen for it when he's clutch as a running quarterback, or Lamar Jackson, or when Russell Wilson was in his prime, or Cam Newton was in his prime. Today was, again, the perfect representation of why, despite the numbers not always looking the best, Jalen Hurts is an elite football player. Again, he had to overcome the defense just allowing points all game for 7 straight possessions to begin this football game, losing the most impactful player on defense. Then clearly you were rusty and you had to wait till 11:30 p.m. to continue play because of a lightning delay. And Jalen was able to not only, again, score those first 2 touchdowns and stay on par with Dak Prescott, but then he put the game on ice. That's a big third down in that final drive where if he doesn't pick up that first down, even if you hit the field goal there, Dak Prescott has a little over a minute left to potentially go down the field and score the game-tying touchdown. And considering how inconsistent, and that's putting it lightly, the secondary was today, Hurts' ability to call an empty set play and pick up that first down where it's him versus a linebacker one-on-one, and he put that linebacker on absolute skates, faked him outside, cut inside upfield, the linebacker slipped and fell, Jalen picks up the first down, protects himself, which he did a great job of doing today, and then slid. Again, I know the numbers aren't beautiful for the quarterback today. 19 of 23, 152 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. But Jalen showed, because of his calmness, his clear veteran ability to win in close games against division rivals, in the playoffs, against great teams, great players, great quarterbacks, to be able to do that and to elevate as a elite mobile quarterback, that's what makes him special. And for me, this game was all about Jalen Hurts. It was really all about the 2 faces of the franchise. It was him and Saquon Barkley. Saquon had a great game as well. I know the numbers for him don't look great either. 18 carries for 60 rushing yards, only averaged 3.3 yards per carry. Down the stretch, they could not put the game on ice. Landon Dickerson was really banged up, had to come out of this game eventually because of that back injury. Brett Toth was in at left guard. The Dallas Cowboys defensive line, I'll give them props. They got some pushback, especially after that delay, that weather delay. They adjusted really well. Eberflus adjusted really well. But I thought Saquon looked great in that first half, had that rushing touchdown to take the lead. The Eagles never looked back from there. And through the air, 4 catches for 24 yards doesn't seem like anything, but that one-handed catch to pick up the first down in the fourth quarter where they're killing clock, that was really important as well. I thought this game was all about what the Eagles do best, what Jalen Hurts does best, what the offense does best, running the football. Now, do they have their work cut out for them in the passing game? Absolutely. A.J. Brown cannot touch the football only once. And it to be on the final drive, that can't happen for multiple reasons. And we'll talk about that next week on the show. I don't want this guy demanding a trade, but also he's too good of a football player. He's too impactful to your offense, too important to your offense to not even try to force feed him the ball a little bit more. The fact that they didn't even have any quick passes dialed up for A.J. Brown today was not good enough. You have to do that. You have to get Devontae Smith involved more than what he had. I mean, Devontae only had 3 catches for 16 yards. A.J. Brown had just the 1 catch for 8 yards. 2 of the best receivers in the world should not be in a football game for 4 quarters and only have 4 catches for 24 yards total. That's not good enough. I thought Kevin Patullo was a little bit too conservative in this football game, especially in the second half. Felt like they were just trying to kill clock instead of go for the dagger, if you will, and win by 2 possessions. But overall, a win is a win. Week 1 is always wonky. When you consider the obstacles they had to overcome today, the lightning delay, Jalen Carter getting kicked out, an early injury, Dak Prescott having a really good performance, Dallas kind of elevating their play considering the circumstances, I'll take the win. especially considering you got the Chiefs coming up next in Arrowhead. You got the Rams. September is a really tough month for the Eagles, so I don't always want to say a win is a win, but for today, a win is a win, and I'm really encouraged because the win was about your quarterback, and that makes you feel good 100% of the time. 24-20 was the final score. The Philadelphia Eagles start 1-0 on the 2025 season.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The Dallas Cowboys lose an absolute heartbreaker in week 1.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
We are breaking down the Cowboys' 24-20 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1. Cowboys had a chance to win this game. They had the ball with under 2 minutes left, down by 4 at about midfield, but a couple drops by CeeDee Lamb ultimately sealed their fate. Landon, this one, nobody expected the Cowboys to win this one, but man, they had a great chance to steal this one late.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing we need to do is remind ourselves the level of difficulty that we're talking about. I mean, these are the Super Bowl champs. It's the banner hanging game. We're playing in Philadelphia. We've got a brand new head coach who's never been a head coach, wasn't a play caller last year, wasn't the play caller last year. And I think that a lot of us expected that there was a chance that disaster could have happened. We certainly painted a picture where something like this, maybe combined with the win, was within the realm of possibilities. To see and we'll talk it, we'll obviously break it all down, but I think just to take a step back for a second and talk about what the overall vibe is of the team versus before and after the game, as disappointing as it was to lose the game in the manner we did, CeeDee Lamb dropping the ball, which is something I don't feel like another way we're going to lose the game in another part of the season. I'm still so incredibly encouraged by a lot of the little things that I saw that I just didn't have any answers for, and to see them kind of perform and come out early and perform against a Philadelphia team like that. That all was extremely encouraging, and it starts especially with Brian Schottenheimer.
I understand. I have very mixed emotions coming out of that game, because you're right. We thought there was a chance that they could potentially get blown out in this game, and they didn't. They started off this game incredibly fast, and honestly, we need to give Brian Schottenheimer some credit. He had this team ready to play, at least on the offensive side of the ball. They started the game off with back-to-back touchdown drives. I think they scored points on their first 4 drives of the game. The offense, considering that they didn't do anything in the preseason, looked really good. At the same time, this was a game where Philadelphia had a lot of penalties. They didn't throw the ball particularly well. You had Jalen Carter kicked out before even the first play on offense, and yet you still weren't able to get the win. And now, again, you got to go, 10-6 probably the rest of the way to make the postseason. It's going to be an uphill climb with that schedule they have.
Sure, but I mean, last week we also traded Micah Parsons away, so I think
I know.
in the scale of where we are, I think it's. I think that there was some positivity we saw today, and look, I think if anything, I feel like, look, if you can do that and play that close with the Eagles, I think that puts you in the realm of kind of winning some of these games that maybe you didn't think you had any chance in before. So there certainly is opportunity to steal some of these games. And obviously this is just week 1, so that we'll see how this develops, but it was a tough way to lose that game for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the good thing here. Dak Prescott, the numbers aren't going to show it. 21 of 34 for 188 yards, averaging 5.5 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, no interceptions. but he played lights out in this game. There were a couple moments later in the fourth quarter where maybe he was forcing a couple passes, but I thought for the most part, like Dak played at a really high level, and this certainly didn't look like a quarterback who missed a good chunk of last season.
No, I mean, he certainly looked like a quarterback that was going to win that game. You know, like, I mean, and honestly, CeeDee Lamb catches one of those 3 passes at the end. I think they had a really good chance to win. So, yeah, I mean, the thing that was really impressive was just watching how aggressive he was playing, right? Like his average depth of target was at right around 10 yards. And just really, just watching him attack the seam, aggressively attack those Eagles corners. Like they really showed, and that's what I loved about the tone. And they kind of came out, they weren't afraid. They went straight at the Eagles defense and kind of had them on their heels for a good portion of the first half and into the second half. So I do think that, that was all extremely positive to see. Hey, 2023 Dak's still here, right? Like he still exists. You give him some protection, some opportunities, and some folks to actually get open and make play. He can deliver the ball. Now, CeeDee Lamb and some of these other folks got to make sure that they finish the play. And then
let's talk about that. CeeDee Lamb, 13 targets, 7 catches for 110 yards. He drew, I think, 2 penalties, 1 pass interference in the end zone, which set up a Javonte Williams touchdown run. He had his moments. Like CeeDee had some big plays in this game, and he had some crucial conversions. But it's just the drops. He had a drop on a dig route. He had a deep pass on the second to last drive of the game that went through his hands. And then the play of the game, I'm not going to criticize him in that one because he kind of had his arm pulled back a little bit. He could have made that catch. It would have been a wild catch. But the overall point is, for as great as CeeDee Lamb is, he let them down in this one.
For sure. And you don't expect that that's going to happen again. And again, it's early September. It's September football. It's the earliest September football. But obviously, extremely disappointing considering how well he played throughout the rest of the game and how well the offense was seemingly played. I think that was the thing that was kind of crazy to me is that, this is a team that we've kind of come to just expect pre-snap penalties and like a lot of, mental mistakes. And especially in September in week 1, I would have expected a lot more of that. And there wasn't a ton of that. So outside of CeeDee's kind of concentration drops, I do feel like the team was very crisp, which is why it was even more shocking that a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who's probably the best player on your team, was put into position multiple times to extend the opportunity to win the game. And he couldn't come up with one of them. And you're right. That last one, I don't blame him for. But the one that went through his hands on the slant, on the deep dig route it bounced off his head, like that was terrible.
We should mention that it feels like that the rain delay or the lightning delay really changed this game. I don't believe there was any points scored after the lightning delay. And we had these offenses moving up and down the field. We had 3 total points scored in the second half of this game. And I don't know whether it was because guys were stiff or they, or defenses had a little bit of time to adjust and catch up. It almost feels like this was 2 completely separate games.
They flipped. It's like the game flipped after the lightning, right? We would be remiss, and I need to make sure that we mention it before we get out of the offensive segment of Javonte Williams and what a game he had today. Because I do think that we'll talk about the offensive line because I do think that's a whole separate section. But Javonte Williams specifically himself looked really impressive considering what we're all expecting of him, right? I do think that they still probably need to figure out one more of these guys that can be a better alternative to kind of mix it up. Miles Sanders was obviously a big swing and a big hit and a big miss, right? Like at one point. But I think that Javonte Williams has kind of shown us, hey, that he could be that bruiser who's efficient with running the football, had a high success rate tonight. Everything I think looked good on that front.
The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. I got a lot of bets in week 1. I'll tell you that. A lot of lines that I like. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Stop me if you heard this one before. Christian McCaffrey, little calf injury right before the kickoff of week 1.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's talk San Francisco 49ers and a story that no 49ers fans wanted to see that popped up on Thursday, and that was Christian McCaffrey on the injury report. And usually in our final podcast before the weekly game, our Keys to Victory pod, we usually check in with the injury report, and it was going to be a very empty injury report until that late information here on this Thursday. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I'll bring it up on the screen and we can kind of talk about this injury report right now for the 49ers and the Seahawks. And, going into week 1, it's not a big injury report, but obviously the name that is glowing there in limited participation for Thursday's practice. And he was not on the list for Wednesday's practice either, which tells me this is something that just kind of popped up and started bothering Christian McCaffrey. Calf injury, Croc. And if I'm not mistaken, last offseason, before we realized it was really Achilles tendonitis, wasn't Christian McCaffrey's injury listed as a calf injury? And so that is, you don't want to sound the alarms or anything or make a bigger deal about it than it is. And it's not that he didn't practice. It was only limited participation, as were a few other 49ers we'll talk about. But you hate seeing days before the season kicks off, Christian McCaffrey pop up on the injury report with a calf injury.
It is worrisome. Anytime I hear about a lingering calf injury, right, especially to this extent, I think back to a few years ago. There's a guy by the name of Kevin Durant on the Golden State Warriors. And he was having some kind of calf injury that he was trying to work through, and he sat out for a couple games, and then he came back. And he's exerting all this energy, and the next thing you know, boom, we see really looked like his calf exploded, but it was him rupturing his Achilles. And I hope that I'm going to knock on wood here. I hope that's not going on with Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, this is something that he attempted to play through last season until they just kind of put him on the shelf. But it's a little worrisome to see that it just continues to pop up because, you guys all know the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's definitely smoke with this calf, with whatever he has going on with it. I don't want to overreact, but the fact that this is something that's been going on with his calves, 1 or 2, for over a year now, I can't just shake it off.
The big thing for me is, and we didn't see Christian McCaffrey at all during the preseason, and we know he works hard and works out hard, and there were good reports on him during camp, and then some other reports that said he looked like, maybe he has lost a half a step or whatever. And you take those with a grain of salt. I didn't get my eyes on Christian McCaffrey at all since he last played for the 49ers. So I don't know what he looked like during camp, but you hope that it wasn't a situation where, okay, things got real. We're ramping up for week 1. Christian McCaffrey didn't do a lot in the team sessions throughout camp and at all through the preseason games. And then during the ramp up period, he finds out, it's still there and I can't ramp up to where I need to be to start the season. That's what you hope it really isn't. And you hope it's just nothing. And limited is better than no practice. And so we'll get more information, no doubt. He was supposed to speak to reporters on Thursday and didn't because of this injury. So that it's not nothing. It's not a big deal yet, Croc. But Christian McCaffrey was going to be one of the keys to victory for the 49ers and still is one of the keys to victories for the 49ers here when we get into how the Niners are going to beat the Seattle Seahawks in week 1. So that is absolutely not something that 49ers fans wanted to see. Juwan Jennings still listed as limited participant coming back from his calf injury and a brand new contract. I want to talk a little bit more about that contract. Yetur Gross-Matos back on the practice field. He did not practice Wednesday, was back on the field in a limited participation on Thursday. Trent Williams full participant in practice. He didn't participate in practice Wednesday. That was not injury related. That was just the veteran Wednesday rest day for Trent Williams, getting him ready for the season. Big, important part of this. Some really key names on this list, though, are Dominic Pooney. He's still limited, coming back from his knee injury. All signs point to him being able to play. Same with Juwan Jennings in week 1. Jordan Watkins didn't participate Wednesday, but he was back in a limited fashion on Thursday as well for the 49ers. And the 2 rookies, CJ West and Mykel Williams, who we didn't really get to see a lot of in the preseason, they were full participants at practice, which is a good sign. Look like they're ready to go. Jordan James might be needed. He missed all of preseason with an injury as well, a finger injury. He was limited at practice this week. And who knows, if Christian McCaffrey doesn't suit up, then the rookie Jordan James is going to need to suit up, I think. Isaac Guerrero, full participant from his shoulder injury earlier in camp as well.
I want to go back to the Juwan Jennings thing, because you mentioned him, and we've been talking about Christian McCaffrey. Juwan Jennings has had a lingering calf injury too, and people have talked about it. This is something that he kind of dealt with a little bit last preseason, but he also went on to play 15 games, so you don't worry as much about it. Christian McCaffrey played 4 games last season. And in those 4 games, he was only averaging 50 yards rushing per game. So that would be on pace to be less than 1,000 yards. So that's someone that's clearly not himself. So when the injury pops back up and they're monitoring it at the very least, this is a guy who was not at his best dealing with Achilles issues, whatever, or calf issues, and it's carried over. Whereas opposed to Juwan Jennings, we can kind of brush it off because this is a guy that kind of dealt with something similar, but went on to play 15 games, played very well. Had his most productive season of his career. So I don't think you want to overreact to the whole Christian McCaffrey and the news and whatnot. But how do you not, when it's something that continues to kind of pop up? And even if it doesn't hurt him for 1 game, 2 games, the 49er fans, they want to see quest for 6, right? Yeah, they want this team to make a deep playoff push. I think that right there, when you start to think about that and the longevity of Christian McCaffrey with what he's dealing with, that's where it gets tough to be optimistic with him. And then you start to look behind him like, oh, okay, well, it's fine because you got Jordan James, right? You got nope, he's hurt. Isaac Guerrero, and it's like, well, he hasn't really been too great, and he's getting banged up and whatnot. And I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys game, and you see Javonte Williams, and then you see Miles Sanders come in, and they're like, okay, we got some cool little running backs, some veteran guys that have played well in the league. After Christian McCaffrey, it gets a little spooky for the 49ers. So that's tough, especially for a team that wants to lean into the run game so much. And you would think, like, oh, there's the undrafted guys. Like, those guys gotten hurt too.
It's the nature of the injury for me. This is something that was supposed to be in the rear view. It's the calf injury. It's the injury of the lower leg, whether they deem it as part of his Achilles tendonitis or a separate calf injury. It's the same part of the leg. And by the way, he had the injury of both legs last year too. So it's the same injury, same leg that was hurt last year. That's something that was supposed to be in the rear view and not affecting him. I would feel better about this injury from McCaffrey. It was like a forearm, right? Or a hand, or even a knee or a shoulder or whatever. But the fact that it's the same injury as last year, or at least in the same proximity as the injury last year, is the thing that has me concerned and raises my eyebrows for Christian McCaffrey going into yet another season, going into week 1. Suddenly he pops up on an injury report where he wasn't supposed to be on it, and you thought you were in the clear with him. So not ideal for the San Francisco 49ers going into week 1. Overall, a fairly healthy team. Looking at the Seahawks roster, starters Tariq Woolen and a young, powerful offensive lineman Anthony Bradford did not practice on Thursday. So they potentially are without potentially a couple of starters for the Seattle Seahawks as well. And of course, there's another day of practice, and there's time for these guys to get ready to play. So we'll definitely monitor those injuries as we get close to kickoff on Sunday.